All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show. Check out Pig in a Pickle, man. Best barbecue in Northern California. Open 7 days a week in Corte Madera, and they're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville, in the Emeryville Public Marketplace. Awesome barbecue, killer brisket. Get the brisket chili. Say hi to Damon. Say hi to Mary. Tell them the Krug sent you. All right, let's talk a little 49ers, little video on the Niners. Niners have gotten a number of things done in free agency. Brought in Javon Hargrave, brought in the cornerback Isaiah Oliver, brought in Cleveland Farrell to help the defensive line. And they've re-signed some guys. They re-signed Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. They re-signed Jake Brendel. They've done some things to plug some holes. Now, how should they finish up their free agent market? Well, I'm going to give you some names that I really would love to see them finish with. Some are primary names, big ticket items. A lot of them are not. Most of these guys on this list are not going to cost the Niners big money. But here's my plan for the rest of free agency. The Niners lost Jimmy Ward and Emmanuel Mosley. They lost two of their physical tone setters in their secondary. That hurts a lot. And losing Jimmy Ward, you lose a difference maker, a tone setter, a guy who was athletic, fast, and versatile, a guy who hit people, a guy who covered people, truly a dynamic alpha on your defense, on your team, and definitely in your secondary. And he needs to be replaced. So I'm saying I'd go CJ Gardner Johnson from the Eagles. I'm a big fan of CJ Gardner Johnson. Everything I just said about Jimmy Ward, you could say the same damn things about CJ Gardner Johnson. He can play corner, outside. He can play in the slot. He can play a nickelback role. He can play a free safety if you need him at strong safety. Heck, this guy could play a weak side backer if you needed it. CJ Gardner Johnson. He is the versatile tone setting bad A that the Niners need to add to replace Jimmy Ward. If you get a guy like CJ Gardner Johnson, you undoubtedly immediately become the Super Bowl favorite out of the NFC. I don't think it's even debatable. That's number one. Number two, bring back Robbie Gould. What do you want out of a kicker? You want somebody who's absolutely rock solid when the money's on the table. You don't want to get to the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game and lean on a kicker and go, it's a rookie. Who knows? You want to be able to say, you know what? Let's lean on a guy who's never missed in the playoffs. That's Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould's a leader. Give him whatever money he needs to have him stick around. Bring back Robbie Gould. That's number two. Number three, the Niners need a more dynamic number two tight end. And the draft is loaded with them, but they may not have high enough picks to get some of the premier guys. Dalton Kincaid's going to be gone. Michael Mayer is going to be gone by the time the Niners pick. And there'll be several other tight ends that probably will be off the board. Robert Tonyan is a buddy of George Kittle's. He's a big tight end who I think's been a little underutilized in Green Bay the last couple of years. This guy can do it as a receiver. He's more than a passable blocker. Really like Tonyan. I think he's underrated. So bringing in Robert Tonyan as my number two tight end to George Kittle, that's on my list. Niners need an offensive lineman, but they don't necessarily need a starter. They just need somebody who can compete at three spots: center, right guard, and right tackle. And I see that player in Nick Allegretti from the Kansas City Chiefs. Allegretti is versatile. He's tough. He's smart. He's 26. The Chiefs have a bunch of different cap issues. Players that they would prioritize over Nick. I think he's a really solid football player. He's got a wrestling background. I think he could share right guard with Spencer Burford if you needed him there. I think he could compete with Colton McKivitz for play at right tackle. I think he could be a backup to Jake Brendel if Brendel went down. I like Allegretti as a football player. I like his smarts. I like his toughness, and I think he'd be a great addition. So number 4 on the list, Nick Allegretti. Now, I would love to get an edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa, and Leonard Floyd was cut by the Rams, so he does not count against the compensatory selection chart or equation for next year. So this to me is a phenomenal football player who has 2 or 3 really good years left in him. He's fast enough to get to the edge, and to me, when you have Hargrave and Armstead and Bosa, then you added a guy like Cleveland Farrell, who's really strong against the run. If you could bring back a Jordan Willis, great. But man, Leonard Floyd, I think, would be an impact guy and give them their best tandem since they had Bosa and D Ford in 2019. Leonard Floyd, number 5 on my list. Number 6 on the list is more depth at corner. And one of the guys I really liked in the draft a couple of years ago is Rashad Fenton out of South Carolina. He went to Kansas City. He played in a very deep secondary. And then he went to Atlanta this year and played well for them. He's a free agent. He's not going to cost you big dollars, but he's a pretty good cover corner. I really like Rashad Fenton quite a bit. I don't think he's going to cost you a ton. Number 6 on my list is Rashad Fenton. And I'm going to round out the list with a familiar name for Niner fans. And I just like this player. He doesn't always anchor well against the run. But man, this guy in a rotation is a phenomenal pass rusher, and there's versatility. He can play inside, he could play outside. Let's just say by chance you had injuries on your front. It's always nice to have, a pass rusher who can play everywhere on the line. And I like Kentavious Street, and I know they had him, they let him go. He's not the best against the run as far as anchoring against the run, but it's a passing game. And Kentavious Street can play defensive end if you need him. He can provide interior pass rush. And I just think that, in a world where every guy in your defensive line has to be able to rush the passer, a guy like Kentavious Street has real value. He's strong as a horse. The guy's 290 pounds, and he's got pass rush ability, and he's got two-step quickness. So he's coming full bore at the quarterback and provides you a lot of pass rush. So there you go. There's my free agent wish list. They've done some good things. Getting Hargrave undoubtedly was a huge move. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Robbie Gould, Robert Tonyan, Nick Allegretti, Leonard Floyd, Rashad Fenton, and Kentavious Street would be the way I would love to see the 49ers round out the free agent period. If they could wind up with, that kind of free agent class, I think they could go into the draft with very few needs, with lots of momentum, and the ability to potentially parlay some of those day 2 picks at the end of round 3 into a move up into the second round for potentially a great player, a first round talent that falls into the second round for whatever reason. So that's my list. We'll see what they do. I like what John Lynch and Parag Marathe and Kyle Shanahan have done thus far. And if they go with some of those 7 guys to round out this free agent class, I think they'll be well ahead of the game and the overwhelming favorite to go back to the Super Bowl and represent the NFC. All right, that does it for our Pig in a Pickle Krug Show video. Make sure you check out Pig in a Pickle in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. Open 7 days a week in Marin, Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. And keep it locked on the Krug Show all year long for all your Niner coverage. Every part of the season, in season, postseason, draft season, free agent season. We're covering the team from start to finish, and we hope you enjoy it. Check out the Krug Show on YouTube.